The movie opens up by showing a man who is a prisoner named Adrian Frank, who is convicted of robbery with a sum of 2 million euros. In prison, Adrian lives in the same cell with a man named Jean-Louis Morel who was convicted of raping an underage teenager. One night, 3 male inmates came to the cell where Adrian and Louis were living. The 3 men deliberately came there to harass Louis because they knew that he was a sexual criminal. As soon as the 3 men entered, they immediately asked Adrian to come out so they could more freely harass Louis. Adrian came out of the room and stood in front of the door. It seemed that the 3 men had already paid money to the warden to let them into the cell where Louis was staying. Adrian, who could not stand to hear the groaning sound of Louis in pain, finally decided to stop the lecherous actions of the 3 men and fight them all. As a result, a fight between Adrian and the 3 inmates ensued. Adrian almost died from being strangled by the 3 inmates, but fortunately, the guards managed to prevent them and immediately broke up the fight. The next day, Adrian and Louis got a visit from their respective wives. During the meeting, Adrian's wife, Anna, asked him about the place where Adrian had hidden the stolen money. But Adrian chose not to tell Anna because he still couldn't trust his wife. During the visit, Anna also took their daughter into prison because she missed her father so much. Adrian was initially annoyed with Anna because he didn't want his little girl to see him as a prisoner, but he couldn't contain his longing and immediately carried his daughter into his lap. Meanwhile, Louis's wife tells Louis that their lawyer is doing their best to get him released immediately. And soon, Louis will be free because the family of the victim who previously sued him has dropped all their demands. While the inmates were watching the show, which is usually held every month, Adrian was suddenly attacked by another inmate using a screwdriver. The man threatened Adrian to tell him where Adrian had hidden the stolen money. It is known that the man will soon be released from prison, so he wants to snatch the stolen money from Adrian. However, because Adrian was not willing to tell the location, the man immediately pierced Adrian's ear with the screwdriver until he fainted. Adrian was treated at the prison health clinic and was unconscious for 3 days. When Adrian came to his senses, Louis was sitting beside Adrian. Louis reports that today he has been released because all his charges have been dropped. Louis thanks Adrian for helping him the other day from another inmate attack. Therefore, Louis gave Adrian his phone number and offered to help if he needed anything. Before Louis left the room, Adrian asked him for help to meet his wife and told that the money he had stolen had been hidden in his late father's grave. Before Louis left prison, he first went to the bathroom to get the rest of the hair that was on Adrian's comb. It seems, Louis deliberately saved the hair for the crimes he would commit later. A few days later, a former police commander named Manuel came to see Adrian on a visit. Manuel explains that he came to visit him because he knows that Adrian was in the same cell as Louis, and he wants to get information about Louis from Adrian. Adrian said that he was not very close to Louis, but he thinks Louis is just an ordinary and innocent person. Manuel denies this, and says that Louis is actually a very heinous and manipulative rapist and serial killer. Louis can act like a pure and innocent person in front of his victims. Manuel knows this because he once tried to save one of the victims from a fire that was deliberately set by Louis, even though in the end the victim did not survive. Manuel tried to arrest Louis, but so far there has never been any solid evidence or witnesses. Louis's wife always does everything possible to help Louis find his victims and release them from prison. Hearing all that, Adrian looked in disbelief because he had entrusted his wife and daughter to Louis. On the other hand, a female police officer named Claire is conducting an operation with her team to arrest a drug dealer. Claire disguised herself as a prostitute to confirm the target, and once she was sure that the man was her target, she immediately ordered her team to go into an ambush. At the time the arrest was made, a shootout between drug dealers and the police ensued. But the drug dealer man was easily defeated by Claire, who was already on guard in the bathroom. Meanwhile, Adrian looks confused and worried because he keeps thinking about the safety of his beloved wife and daughter. When Adrian was doing his job as usual, a prison warden and 3 inmates deliberately threatened him because they were after the money he stole. Adrian was again involved in a fight with 3 inmates and the prison warden. Luckily, Adrian managed to beat them all and took the opportunity to escape from prison disguised as a warden. On the other hand, Louis and his wife are shopping at a supermarket to find the girl who will be their new target. At the same time, Louis and his wife saw the news about Adrian escaping from prison. Louis's wife looked worried because she was afraid that Adrian would know what they were doing, but Louis felt sure that Adrian would not hurt them. Louis and his wife turned out to have kidnapped Adrian's daughter and taken her with them. After that, a man who became a police commander named Luciana asked Claire and her team to find and arrest Adrian. At first, Claire refused because her team was solving a drug ring arrest case, but because the commander forced her to take up Adrian's case, Claire had no other choice. Meanwhile, Adrian has arrived at his apartment to meet his wife and child. However, the apartment was empty. Adrian thought that Anna had gone to take their child to another place, so he left a letter for Anna that he would be looking for them soon. Unfortunately, Claire and her team have surrounded the place. At first, they didn't find Adrian, but after Claire found a letter that still looked like it had just been written on the table, she immediately searched the area again. After finding Adrian, Claire immediately pointed her gun and asked a colleague for help who was still in the building. However, Adrian managed to escape from Claire's pursuit after he jumped out of the window and fled onto a speeding train. In the evening, Adrian came to his father's grave to check if the money was still there. Unfortunately, the money has been lost and he instead finds Anna's body in the tomb. That means, Lewis has stolen the money and killed his wife. Realizing this, Adrian's heart immediately broke and he felt very sorry for his wife and daughter. After that, Adrian immediately contacted Lewis and asked where his daughter was. Lewis said that for now Adrian's daughter was still safe with him, but if Adrian tried to find him, then he could hurt the child. After that, Lewis turned off Adrian's call and started creating a fake scene by leaving Adrian's DNA along with the clothes of the victim he had killed earlier. It turns out that Lewis deliberately framed Adrian so that the police thought that the perpetrator of the murder of the girl he had killed earlier was Adrian. Lewis deliberately put the body in the place where Adrian had been hiding after the robbery. The next day the police investigated the location where Adrian was hiding and found the bodies of two teenage girls who were burned at that place. One of the girls who became victims was the daughter of a former police officer named Thomas. And Thomas, who happened to see all this, was very angry and sad. The police then suspected Adrian as the perpetrator of the murder of the two girls. But Claire still has doubts that Adrian could do such a heinous thing, considering the only criminal record that Adrian did was the robbery he committed last time. Meanwhile, Adrian comes to Manuel's house to find more information about Lewis so he can find them. Even though he is retired, Manuel has been secretly conducting private investigations to find and imprison Lewis, but he has never received solid evidence. Previously, Manuel had received two bodies that he suspected as victims of Lewis's murder, but the DNA found in these victims was not Lewis's DNA. After that, Adrian gave the phone number which he had previously contacted. Manuel immediately traced the signal from the phone number by sneaking into the nearest police station and using their tracking system. When Manuel was at the police station, Adrian, who was still at Manuel's house, suddenly heard the sound of police sirens, and he began to realize that his whereabouts were known to the police. Adrian immediately slipped away from that place. On one occasion, Adrian took Claire hostage and asked two other police officers to put down their weapons. Adrian then tells Claire that he has been framed, and that the real culprit for all this is Lewis. As soon as Adrian explained all that, he immediately ran away. Fortunately, Manuel arrived just in time and immediately rescued Adrian using a car. As a result of gunfire from the police, Manuel suffered a gunshot wound and decided to sacrifice himself so that Adrian could escape from the place. But before that, he gave the paper containing the area where Lewis lived to Adrian. Adrian, who again managed to escape the police, immediately went to the destination using a stolen car. The next morning, Adrian supervised a pharmacy in the area because Adrian remembered that Lewis had been very dependent on one type of medicine and would feel very panicked if he didn't take the medicine. On the other hand, Claire also begins to investigate all the files regarding Lewis because she feels sure that Adrian is not a serial killer. She remembers that before, Adrian had the opportunity to kill her with a gun, but Adrian had absolutely no intention of hurting her. Meanwhile, Lewis and his wife are at a market with Adrian's daughter. While looking around, Lewis again found a beautiful girl he liked and would be the target of the next victim. On the way home, Lewis and his wife pretended to ask the girl for a hospital address. The girl then replied that there was a clinic around this area. Lewis's wife tried to persuade the girl to come with them and lead the way to the clinic. Although the girl was hesitant at first, she finally got into the car because she saw a little girl and thought that they were not dangerous people. After passing the supposed place, the girl begins to realize that she is being kidnapped and immediately takes the fight. The girl managed to escape into a forest and quickly ran for help. Unfortunately, Lewis managed to find the girl and killed her right away. The next day, Adrian saw that Lewis had just come out of the pharmacy he was supervising, so he immediately went to follow Lewis from behind. After driving for quite a while in a very quiet hilly area, Adrian finally found Louis' residence, which is located in a villa on a hill. In the afternoon, Adrian started sneaking into the villa and managed to find his daughter. At the same time, Claire also comes to the villa because she begins to suspect Louis as a serial killer after the criminal analysis she did on Louis's files. Adrian felt very relieved and happy to see that his daughter was still safe and fine. Unfortunately, when Adrian and his daughter were about to run away from there, Louis and his wife suddenly appeared with rifles. Fortunately, Claire arrived just in time and immediately pointed a gun at Louis. However, Louis managed to shoot Claire until she was injured before he finally went to chase Adrian and his daughter. Adrian took the opportunity to run away with his daughter. He ran up the hill to hide his daughter from Louis. Claire, who was still alive, immediately beat Louis's wife and rushed to catch up with Adrian. Meanwhile, Louis has managed to find Adrian and immediately shoots Adrian with a rifle in front of his daughter. Fortunately, Adrian was still able to survive by holding onto a tree branch at the end of the cliff. Knowing Adrian is still alive, Louis intends to shoot Adrian dead, but the action fails because he gets killed by Claire. Claire and Luciana try to save Adrian. However, Thomas, who is the father of one of the girls who had been the victim of Louis's murder, suddenly appeared and shot Adrian. Thomas thinks that the person who raped and killed his daughter was Adrian. The next day, they did a search in the river area to find the bodies of Adrian and Louis, but they could only find Louis's body. 3 months later, Claire visits Adrian's daughter at an orphanage. The film closes with a scene where Adrian's daughter receives a letter in the form of a sketch of a family, father, mother, and daughter sent by Adrian.